Hello, everybody. I'd like to introduce you to Matt Garland from 3T Logistics. Thank you very much for joining us today, Matt.
You're welcome, David. Thank you for inviting me.
Good to know. It's nice to see you on here. Can you give us an overview of 3T Logistics, of what you do and its position in the market and the supply chain, please?
I certainly can. So first thing is slightly correct there. We are now 3T Aptian. So some exciting times. We were purchased end of last year by a large American company called Aptian, who effectively buy software as a service companies, but they quite heavily into supply chain, do niche ERP systems, WMS, and of course TMS, which was their interest in 3T. 3T itself, though, still very much operates in two areas, two parts of our business. Firstly, as a 4PL. So again, I know the podcast is called Logistics Explained, so I won't assume everyone knows what a 4PL is. But to give it you in simple terms, a 4PL effectively doesn't own any of the assets required to operate within a supply chain. So we don't own warehouses or trucks. We don't, employ drivers, etc. We manage our customer supply chain on their behalf by managing all the 3PLs in amongst that. Second part of our business is software as a service. So 3T itself was founded in 2000. And Steve Twidow, good friend of mine, the founder of the business, basically had a vision, because 4PL itself was coined, I think, around 1996. So for people of our age, David, relatively recently, I suppose it's quite a while now, but 1996, a consulting firm called Accenture coined the phrase, and Steve really sort of latched onto it early when it wasn't really an established thing. And his vision was always to be technology led by it, because 4PL gets a bit muddled in lots of places. But actually, the true power of what we do is that TMS at the heart of it that operates the execution of the planning, orders coming into the system, allocating to carriers. And the system was really designed from the ground up with connectivity in mind. So all of our carrier partners use the same system, our planners, our customers' planners. And what's the power of that? You start building a really accurate picture with data that everyone discusses now. So yeah, founded 2000. Fair to say in the last 5 to 10 years, some pretty rapid growth, which was great. And we now, class leading world brands such as Kraft Heinz amongst our customer base. JCP, Klockner Pentaplast is a huge company not many people have heard of, but do food packaging. So that's kind of a high level 3T.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I ask the same question of everyone. What brought you into the lovely logistics world?
Yeah, so as you know, I follow you, David, so I watch all your podcasts, and depressingly, the answer is commonly fell into it, isn't it? Yeah. And I kind of did and didn't. So what do I mean by that? In my earlier career, I started my own business with a friend of mine that was actually selling computer components, software and hardware. Now, I was good on the sales side, and we'd both worked at a company previously, and we decided we could probably do this. So we did. We borrowed some money, set up a business. Actually, it involved a lot of logistics in it. And I ended up kind of being the one that got interested in it and doing it. So that's how I built my experience, so kind of by accident, but actually I genuinely really enjoyed it. And then the second person responsible for my continuation in logistics is a guy called Dave Doolan, which was yourself. So I came across your paths early in my career, and you placed me in my first, I suppose, proper true logistics role in the pallet world, if you remember.
I do indeed.
You're to blame.
Thank you. So tell us about the 4PL sector and how you see it developing in the next few years.
Yeah, so as I said, it's fair to say it took a while to catch on, the concept of it. I always go, favourite saying an old boss of mine used to say, and I don't think he coined it, but no one got sacked buying from IBM when it comes to IT infrastructure. So I think, 3PL world, and I've worked in 3PL world as well, and clearly work with them now. A lot of them work with us in some of these big accounts. Fits still in lots of places. But I think it was a pretty established model. Any big, retailer or manufacturer would go to a big 3PL and set the warehousing up, etc. But there's always been that element of other suppliers in the chain that need managing. So 4PL took a long time to catch on. In the last 10 years, I think, and you're talking about future growth, companies are starting to realise, so you get those early pioneers, you've now got quite a few established big brands using 4PL models quite successfully and showing, good results, which has been great for us and some of those brand names we've taken on board. Obviously, we've had a lot more interest. So, I mean, growth rise for 4PL, I think it will continue because it is a good model. So I've sat in both worlds and does produce some startling results. Recently, obviously I won't share details of the company, but, an annual transport spend of £12 million, we saved £1.5 million in the first year. There's some pretty significant savings involved in it. So I think there's going to be continued growth. I still don't think technology and integration are quite right in our industry as a whole. That's something we still battle with. Various different systems, how do you bring them together and integrate? Definitely where 4PL has got some really good opportunities around the eco space, being eco-friendly. So I think many people have heard the term greenwashing, and I think it's fair to say, I think it's a bit harsh to say these companies were greenwashing. I think they didn't quite understand what they needed to do, because unfortunately in logistics at the moment, and the technology is getting better all the time, going completely green is a huge cost, and that's got to be passed on somewhere. And that's where a lot of the blockers go. I think for a 4PL, though, on the eco side, because we've got that holistic vision across the whole supply chain, there's a number of opportunities we can help with. The big part of what we do is back to that system part, and it's optimization. So I mentioned we're now owned by Aptian. Again, another exciting development for us is that came with a new sister company that many people in logistics will have heard of, Paragon. Route optimization. So again, we're already naturally reducing those emissions in our industry just through optimization, and that's just a matter of capturing accurate data, planning smarter, optimizing. And as we grow as a 4PL, the opportunities for our customers only grow with that. So for example, two of our large customers have both got large centres in Wigan and also large centres in the south. So guess what? There's a lot of opportunities for effectively what an old boss, Brian Boland of mine, used to be a big fan of, horizontal supply chain collaboration. So big, long word there. What does it effectively mean? It means getting big brands together that share similar supply chains or flows and sharing some of the transport. We almost do that by stealth because of the kind of, I suppose, white label nature of it. We're using a big network of lots of carriers, doesn't necessarily have all the brand names on. So we can actually mix and match some of our customers' freight. They're always aware of this, but obviously gives them saving opportunities as well by those complementary flows. I think the other challenge we've got in that green space, though, is our two biggest customers actually move quite heavy goods. So weight is still a problem. So a big thing people talk about when you're looking to go eco-friendly, of course, is electric vehicles. We're seeing hydrogen technology coming on, not quite there yet. And it's great. The parcel world and smaller, lighter loads are really embracing that, which is great to see. We've still got the challenge in our industry where we're moving heavy stuff, battery equals range, and then winter drops, etc. Best development and most exciting for me at the moment, and we're just about to launch this on some fleet with Kraft Heinz, is HVO fuel. So it's effectively a biofuel, but the great thing with HVO is it offers up to 90% carbon reduction and can operate in existing diesel engines. So that's where we're going with the kind of eco thing at the moment.
No, thank you, Matt, because we'll come on to, the green transition, and you covered some of it, which is really good. And in another podcast we did with DX, they've done the same thing, and it's made a big difference for them, in the short term, because of, we'll come back to it on the green transition scenario. What do you see as the biggest, both threats and opportunities for the 4PL sector? Because obviously, growth, etc. But obviously, when you talk to people anecdotally, like I do with my recruitment business, the market is tough, the costs are going up, but often the rate for the job is going down, and it's a bit of a conundrum, really, both in warehousing and maybe in distribution. The actual cost to serve is going up, but almost the rate for the job is coming down. So where do you see the sort of challenges coming over the next few years for 4PL predominantly?
Yeah, so I think it's logistics as a whole as opposed to just 4PL. So, so I had these debates in the early days, and me and Steve used to debate this a lot. We generally try and live and breathe this at 3T. So when you're looking at a 4PL, we manage up to 400 partners in terms of, carriers, hauliers. And we can't do what we do for the customer without them. So we generally live and breathe. I consider our carrier network as important as our customers. We can't make money without the customer, and we can't deliver that customer service without the carrier network. So the biggest threat for us is the same as the 3PL world and the rest of the logistics for me at the moment. So we hold a number of workshops of our carriers, and it's great to get their insights into what they're seeing as well. So two big things worry me at the moment, and we're constantly looking to address. The first one is depressingly old in terms of, I've been talking about it for 25 years, and that is driver shortage, okay, which was in all the news during COVID and has kind of gone away. Mm-hmm. The problem is anyone in the industry will know it hasn't gone away at all. It's, in fact, if anything, probably got worse. Why? So a couple of dynamics I picked up on. At one of those workshops, one of our haulage partners also runs one of the largest driver recruitment agencies in the UK, and gets some really insightful information. So what I'm always looking at there is the figures of drivers. So the 55 to 65 age group, everyone will tell you the average age, I think it's 57, 58. That's consistently going up a little bit. And that group is always the largest group of drivers. You've then got your 25s to 35s and 35s to 45s. Some people outside logistics would ask, what about younger people? That's another challenge we've got in the industry. We struggle to get them in. And certainly when it comes to HGV class ones, everyone wants them to be 25 years old quite commonly with experience, which is another dilemma, because where do you get that experience, right?
Of course, yeah.
So the startling facts that worried me is we always had a large European contingent of drivers. That's shrunk. The 55 to 65 age group has gone down. A lot of people that we used to rely on in peak coming back driving part-time just don't now. CPC is sometimes quoted as a reason for that. I think there's probably numerous reasons. And the level of people we're getting in those younger age groups is nowhere near enough to fill it. So I'm quite a simple person. If that big box of drivers is getting slightly smaller and they're retiring, and the two boxes you're looking to come and fill in are getting smaller as well, that doesn't equal very good maths, really. So that worries me a lot. I think almost of equal concern, and again, this has been pretty well advertised in the press, is just the record level of haulage companies going out of business, which is startling. I think last year was record levels for a long time, and I'm seeing the same this year. So yeah, those I think are our two biggest threats to deal with. Why is there not more made of them at the moment? I think because everyone will accept we're in a relatively poorly performing economy. Most of my big customers, their actual physical volumes of movements have gone down in terms of the volume of product they're moving. And as we know in supply chain, we see the economy quite often before everyone else does. So weirdly, my fear is also one of my hopes, because we all want the economy to grow and we want business to be booming again. My worry is at some point that happens and these two challenges will just come shoot into the surface, because one affects your capacity and your physical number of trucks, and the other one, of course, who's operating those trucks. So yeah, those I perceive are the biggest threats that I kind of worry about and are doing our best to plan for. But they're problems that need lots of support from government, private enterprise, etc.
Yeah, that's been sort of replicated in lots of these conversations, to be fair. And one of the contributors, a guy called Chris Lee Brown, talked about exactly the same issue in America. Exactly the same. So it's not just UK; it's possibly Europe wide, but certainly in America, it's the same issue. So yeah, it is certainly is a challenge, and this could be the same. answer, but it may be something different. What are people not talking about in the sector that they should be talking about?
Yeah, so it is similar, actually. Yeah, so I think it's slightly different for me. So when I hear that question, I think it's what people are talking about but not doing enough about, because we generally talk about these same things every year. And every year we have lots of talking show, and I'm guilty as well, right? I'm part of the industry. None of us have got the magic answer. I think let's be fair, there's been some encouraging signs, so it's very easy to go, the government need to do more. Okay. Yes, in fairness to the government, I think the National Logistics Academy was a good thing. And that's showing some success, and that's government funded, that helps bring apprenticeships in at a younger age, give them HGV experience and put them on the road. But we talk about drivers, we've also now got a shortage of vehicle technicians. I'm hearing more and more from our partners. So if we can't put somebody on the seat and we can't keep the truck on the road, again, these are not good things. So I think it's more not what we're not talking about enough. I think most supply chain professionals and the MDs of these hauliers that I meet are really aware of what the issues are. There just doesn't seem to be enough solid action. And I don't think it's for want of not wanting to fix it. I think it's something that needs that collaboration between government and private enterprise. And there just doesn't seem enough of it. And look, without wishing to be all doom and gloom and Armageddon, I have this debate with my wife, and in the early years we used to joke that she didn't have a clue what I did, and I would always sort of say, well, actually, I'm in the most important industry in the world, and you as a logistician will know that, because nothing functions without us. Ultimately, I don't want to make us too grand, but you'll hear people saying, to people that aren't in logistics, just think how everything gets to the shop. We have all these conversations, but honestly, we've got these underlying problems that if we don't take action, things generally grind to a stop. They really do. So not so much. We're not talking about it. What action are we taking on it?
Okay.
And look, those workshops encourage me that all of the companies I deal with, and a lot of big players in the UK market, are all really doing their best to do their bit. In terms of, most of them have got driver programs on. You hear warehouse to wheels. They're trying to keep their driver pool full. I think still, and again, it's been talked about for 25 years, David, it's still an undervalued profession by the rest of the public. I don't want to alienate myself here, but one thing I'd hope anyone who outside our industry sort of takes from this podcast is be nice to drivers. Also if you work at a distribution center, they are
the lifeblood, a lifeblood of everyone, aren't they? And
absolutely.
We had similar conversations with other people, and the logistics sector drives UK PLC and the world PLC, because we got air freight, sea freight, logistics companies, full load, part load, international, small packets, post, everything. It all works. Okay, that's great.
Absolutely.
And and you mentioned earlier about the green transition. So you're seeing it impacting your sector, and it's good that through the data you mentioned that you're able to demonstrate it, because everyone wants to look green. I think everyone wants to be green, but certainly people want to look green, and there is a bit of, in my words, blah 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 when you actually check 100%. It, and everyone talks about being green, but no one probably wants to pay for it. As in, when you just go and see a big supplier and you say, well, it's a green surcharge of 5%. Next question, please. And and it's not being cynical; it's just the world we live in. So how do you see that green transition developing and impacting the sector?
So I think HVO massively excites me. The challenge we've got, because that's a dead easy, quick answer. It's not that much more expensive than diesel. It is a little bit, but it's not hugely increased costs. Will operate. The challenge with it is you can't pull in a fuel station and get HVO fuel. So it's got to be done from tanks on site. So that means limited quantities almost, and there's a kind of finite supply that goes around. I'm sure we will get to grips with that and it will grow. I constantly keep up to date with, electric HDVs and stuff, and the battery technology gets a bit better each year, and the batteries get a bit lighter, and the pulling capacity and the thing. The challenge I still see for heavy goods vehicle in the electric vehicle side of things is the charging network infrastructure, right? So, any good operator wants to be running his truck for as many hours as possible in that 24-hour period. Yeah. Well, certainly in the world of retail, and this is where distribution centers, and look, I don't want to criticize distributors because there's some really well-run ones. There's also some, again, where turnaround times are so lengthy. It's very difficult planning a truck as it is for all those variables without then also building in, a stop for charging, and you maybe got to deviate. So I know infrastructure's trying to catch up, but I think that's the challenge we got in electric. At this workshop that we do every quarter of our hauliers, we normally pick two topics. It was driver shortage and it was transition to electric vehicles, the last one. Overwhelmingly in that room, and we had some big players in there, most of them on the heavy goods side seem to be hedging their bets towards hydrogen at the moment. Certainly went for moving heavier stuff. And again, that's still relatively a little bit behind on the technology side, but that seems to be the one that's kind of exciting them more. And to your point there on, I agree. I mean, I think I touched upon this earlier. Greenwashing is a terminology done. I sit with a lot of these big customers. They all care. I think you're right, David. What they struggle with is, what should the target be? It's kind of carbon neutral, but there's steps to get there, right? And yes, sometimes it can feel like, have we kind of done that because it sounds like a good number. So look, in a nutshell, for me, short term HVO, and I'm trying to learn more and more about how that supply will work and if we can get wider access to it, because that's a huge win. I mean, 90% without changing is massive, right? That's a really big number. And then just keeping on top of the techs and the pulling capacities on EV, hydrogen. But you're right, the other advantage we do give our customers, at least we're measuring it now. So when we're trying to think of that right number, at least we're not now just doing that on what is the number we're currently spending. Those figures are pretty accurate now on what the supply chain is producing CO2 wise.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And during your career, what development in the sector has surprised you most?
So we're of a similar age, David, aren't we?
Yes.
So yeah, younger people will laugh at it. The e-commerce boom for me. Yeah, I'm embarrassed to say that I didn't really see that coming at all. And actually, it's probably also been the biggest benefit to my sector, which and the world I deal in is more on the full truckload kind of stuff as opposed to the parcels. But what that big e-commerce did is, boy, did it drive our service levels better, because people's expectations from their private delivery service then transferred into their work world, and it's really driven huge amount of innovation. But I didn't see it coming at all. I was one of these Luddites that kind of, I'm not putting the credit card in there. No, why would you shop online? And boy, is that good. And it's amazing how relatively recent it is. Yeah. I'm one of those that remember pre-e-commerce. Yeah, no, not me sideways. I was in the kind of logistics industries. That was all taken off. So yeah, that's been the biggest surprise to me in my career today.
Oh, fantastic. And the final question I'm asking to everyone is, if you could speak to the Prime Minister, then what would you ask them to do to help your business grow and flourish?
So, right, I might not make myself popular with some of my customers now, but one trait I do value is honesty. So I always give them an honest answer on this. This actually ties in with what's touched about earlier, Dave, with the things that, I perceive as threats in the industry. And it's those hauliers going out of business, and you look at the reasons why. So I'll actually give a live example. Again, I won't mention names to protect the innocent. Really valuable partner of ours that's been working with 3T for 10 years had to close their doors last month. And it's all around payment terms, David. A large company that was subcontracting to them had built up £500,000 that they were owed. this company operating a relatively small amount of trucks cannot fund that for 90, 120 days. So what I'm seeing in Europe, it sounds a bit draconian, but I would like to see it here, is I would like some government support and the Prime Minister to actually make payment terms mandatory and shorten them. So I think at France at the moment, we have to pay hauliers on 30 days. And it's a good thing because it keeps them going. Cash is king in that world. So I'd like to look at that because COVID, you know, you look at day sales outstanding. And again, for people who don't understand, ultimately, number of days it takes to get paid. They reduced significantly because people saw the value of it. They are starting to creep up again. There was a report by a company called Good Business Pays. Looked at top 200 companies or something like that. 40 of them are paying suppliers 100 days plus. And that includes these small haulage businesses. That is one area where we can help stem some of that bleeding. So it would be around payment terms, certainly on small businesses like hauliers.
No, thank you. And certainly some of the companies that, you know, have been struggling with cash have gone into factoring, which can look sexy at the beginning, and it's not against factors, but when they don't feel comfortable, they withdraw the
Exactly
service, and that tips them over, and that's happened a number of times,
that's a great point. Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah, cash is king, as you said. So just want to say thanks again, Matt, for your time. Really appreciate your views and comments, and I'm sure our listeners and viewers will really like it. Thank you so much.
A pleasure. Thanks very much, David.